One company throws away its rockets after every flight. They manage 6 launches in 2025. 6. Another company, they land their boosters and fly them again and again. 150 launches in the same year. United Launch Alliance is being sold right now. This is the company that dominated American spaceflight for decades. And here's the thing. They didn't collapse because of corruption or bad management. They failed because of one technology decision they made years ago and never changed. So, the question reshaping the entire space industry: can throwaway rockets ever compete with reusable ones? Let's go back to where this all started. ULA formed in 2006 when Boeing and Lockheed Martin merged their rocket programs. Boeing had Delta, Lockheed had Atlas. They'd been competing against each other for the same contracts, burning through cash. So they combined forces, and they inherited this philosophy that had been around since the 1960s. Build the rocket, fuel it, launch it once, watch millions of dollars burn up or sink into the ocean. Sounds wasteful, right? But for decades, that was actually the most reliable way to get to orbit. ULA got really good at it. Their Atlas V and Delta IV rockets, nearly perfect track record, year after year. When you're launching a billion-dollar spy satellite, you don't care what the launch costs. You care that it gets to the exact right orbit every single time. The Department of Defense was happy to pay $200 million per launch for that certainty. This created a comfortable situation for ULA. Premium prices for premium reliability. No real pressure to cut costs because their customers valued reliability above everything else. But you know what happens to comfortable positions in fast-moving industries. They don't last. December 21st, 2015. That's when everything changed. SpaceX landed a Falcon 9 booster back at Cape Canaveral after sending satellites to orbit. Watching that 15-story rocket come down through the atmosphere, fire up its engines, and land on its legs, that wasn't just cool engineering. That was the moment the economics of spaceflight completely shifted. Think about what reusability actually means. The Falcon 9 first stage has 9 engines, all the avionics, the fuel tanks, the structure. That's roughly 60 to 70% of what the rocket costs. When you throw that away, you're spending $60 to $70 million every launch. But when you land it and fly it again, the cost of that second flight drops way down. Some of their boosters have flown over 20 times now. 20. By 2025, this wasn't experimental tech anymore. SpaceX flew more than 150 missions that year. That's a launch every 2 to 3 days on average, most of them using boosters that had already been to space before. And that launch rate itself became an advantage. More flights mean more data, faster improvements, constant iteration. Meanwhile, ULA did 6 launches in 2025. 5 were Atlas V, the old rocket they're phasing out. Just 1 was their new Vulcan. When your competitor is flying 25 times more often than you, it's not just about the money anymore. It's about momentum. It's about whether customers even see you as relevant. Vulcan was supposed to fix this. They announced it in 2015, the same year SpaceX proved landing was possible. Vulcan uses Blue Origin's BE-4 engines and an upgraded upper stage. On paper, it looked competitive. 100 to 200 million per launch. Expensive, but ULA was betting on their reliability reputation. Then the delays started. Blue Origin couldn't get the BE-4 engines ready. Development dragged on. When engines finally arrived, they came in small batches with quality issues that needed more testing. ULA just had to wait. And while they waited, SpaceX kept flying. Vulcan finally launched in January 2024. You could feel the relief. Then October 2024 happened. During a mission to certify Vulcan for Space Force launches, a big chunk of nozzle from one of the solid boosters broke off mid-flight. Manufacturing defect. The payload made it to orbit, so technically the mission succeeded. But ULA had to stop everything to investigate. The Space Force rated Vulcan's performance unsatisfactory. For a company built on reliability and military trust, that's devastating. By the end of 2025, they'd managed one Vulcan launch. One. While SpaceX was approaching flight number 150. But here's what really matters. Even if Vulcan had flown perfectly, it wouldn't have solved ULA's core problem. Vulcan doesn't land, it doesn't come back. Every launch starts from scratch with a brand new first stage. And that creates this downward spiral. When you're only launching 6 times a year, all your fixed costs, your facilities, your people, your infrastructure, get divided across just those 6 missions, so each launch gets more expensive. Higher prices make you less competitive. Fewer customers mean even fewer launches, which makes costs go up again. It feeds on itself. SpaceX runs the opposite cycle. More launches bring costs down. Lower costs bring more customers. More customers enable more launches. Up and up. There's another whole market ULA completely missed. Crew flights. SpaceX's Crew Dragon has done about 18 missions by mid-2025, carrying over 50 astronauts to orbit. NASA crews, private missions, all of it. ULA has never launched people. Not once. That entire segment of the business, human spaceflight, they're not even in the game. When NASA hands out crew contracts, ULA doesn't get a seat at the table. Even their traditional advantage is slipping away. The military still respects ULA's track record, but when SpaceX offers more launch slots, proven reliability across 150 flights a year, and prices that are 40 to 60% lower, that premium ULA charges gets harder to defend. How long does loyalty hold up against economics like that? By 2023, Boeing and Lockheed had seen enough. They started quietly looking for buyers. And Blue Origin seemed like the obvious choice, right? They make the BE-4 engines Vulcan needs. They're building New Glenn. Buying ULA would give them instant access to government contracts and national security relationships. They started due diligence. Then they walked away. When a company looks that closely at an acquisition and decides it's not worth it, that tells you something. Blue Origin apparently saw all the same problems everyone else sees and concluded ULA's liabilities outweigh its value. Now Rocket Lab's stepping up, which is wild when you think about it. They're so much younger. But their Electron rocket's proven itself with over 20 launches a year and solid reliability. They've won major government contracts worth hundreds of millions. Here's what's interesting, though. Rocket Lab isn't buying ULA's rockets. They're buying access. ULA has national security space launch contracts, security clearances, decades of relationships with the DoD, launch infrastructure that took forever to build. Rocket Lab could ditch Vulcan completely and just use ULA's government connections to fly their own vehicles. And then there's Tory Bruno. He ran ULA for over a decade, steps down during the sale, and immediately joins Blue Origin in a senior role. So Blue Origin didn't buy the company, but they got the guy who knows more about ULA's operations and problems than almost anyone else. When the CEO leaves mid-sale like that, it doesn't exactly boost buyer confidence. So what does ULA's story really tell us? This wasn't about bad people or incompetence. ULA had talented engineers, experienced leadership, decades of successful missions. They failed because they made one fundamental technology choice and stuck with it too long. They kept throwing away rockets when the industry was proving you could bring them back. 6 launches versus 150. That gap shows you what happens when a technology paradigm shifts and you're on the wrong side of it. ULA built everything around expendable rockets right when the world was moving to reusability. By the time they realized how far behind they'd fallen, the gap was too wide. Vulcan showed up years late, flew once in 2025, and still doesn't land. Meanwhile, SpaceX boosters are hitting their 20th flight. Whether Rocket Lab can salvage something valuable here, or whether this is just ULA's final chapter, we'll find out. But the lesson's already clear. In spaceflight today, reusability isn't a feature anymore. It's survival. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit that like button. Subscribe to New Space Review for more analysis on what's actually shaping the space industry. Drop a comment. Can Rocket Lab turn this around, or is ULA beyond saving? And if you want to see what SpaceX is doing with their technology lead, our video on Starship Block 3 is on screen now. The engineering changes they're making are seriously wild. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.